Peace, everyone. Today is March 19th, 2024, and this is my journal entry. It's roughly 6:30 in the morning. It's actually time for me to get up and go to work. And I slept really good last night, but I still don't feel like getting up. Yesterday, my day was good. A lot of meetings at work. Everyone that knows me, they knows that I am not a fan of meetings. I hate meetings. And we're learning a new software system, so they're long, boring meetings. But powered through yesterday, came home. I've been practicing applying makeup to myself. Usually, my best friend does my makeup. She'll put my makeup on me before I do any film or anything like that. But sometimes I might get caught off guard and she can't do my makeup. So I really need to know how to basically do my makeup without her. So it's been quite the challenge. 2 days ago when I did it, I did really good. Um, I did it 3 days ago. Well, whenever I did it, I did really good. But yesterday when I did it, um, my daughter said she felt like if it looked cakey. Oh my gosh, just I know I'm impatient, and I know that learning how to do makeup takes patience. And I love the fact that my daughter is honest, but sometimes she be a little too honest. Like, baby, you here to hurt my feelings or to help me. She's 14. She's already mastered the makeup thing. I haven't yet, and she rubs it in my face. But that's okay. I'm getting there. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn. But I am very, very. I will put this out there. Even when doing TV interviews and radio interviews and stuff like that, where I'm in front of a camera, even in front of the camera, y'all, I am very, very comfortable in my natural state. I like my face. I like my skin. I like my hair. I just like how I look naturally. I just do. Um, and makeup has never been my thing, but I'm getting there. Anyhow, I was thinking this morning. I was thinking about my children and how I parented my children. It's so weird how we always hear people say, I don't want to be the type of parent that my parents was. So I'm going to try my best to parent my children differently. And my mother was great. She had some qualities. I mean, she had some things you know, she had some issues, just like everybody has issues. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, but my mom was pretty good. What I loved about her was she was a homemaker. You know, she worked at times, but she really didn't. She stayed at home with us most of the time, but she was able to go to work. She was able to go to work at nighttime. I think my mom started working full time permanently until she came out of work. When her and my stepfather they separated. They never really legally married, but they separated, and I think I was 14 years old. That's when she started working, and she would work night shift, and she worked for years. Besides my mother, she just worked whenever she felt like it. Like, I think she naturally balanced out the house. Like, so my dad worked and paid all the bills, but if they ran into any money problems, my mom would get a job for like a few months or a year or two, just to kind of help them keep up on the bills. Or like if they wasn't getting along and she didn't want to ask them for any money, I know that she would go to work. Well, that's not the hand that was dealt to me. My mom was able to stay home and cook every single day, and she cooked all 3 meals. And sister girl can cook, and if my mother didn't have anything, she had food ready. I did notice that she did stop cooking as much when she started working. So I had to kind of accept that about myself because I always worked. I never had the luxury of having a man pay all the bills and I stay home. That's just not my story. I've always worked, sometimes two and three jobs. And that's because of the choices that I made, and I'm okay with that now. I used to be mad about it. I don't know why. You ever been mad at yourself for choices that you made? You be pissed like, damn, like she got a whole husband and a whole house. Hell, my choices. I don't have a husband because of some of the choices I made. Shit. I was in long term relationships, but even in those relationships, I'm not gonna say I chose the wrong people, but I still had to work. It just is what it is. Um, that's just one thing I've just grown to accept about myself. Anything that has ever been handed to me, I've had to work to get it. Nothing's been given to me like that. I got to go get it. I've received like little monies here and there, and like you get money, money comes to you, and money does flow to me, but there's something I got to do to get it, whether it's getting up and going to work or, praying or whatever I got to do. I got to do something to get it. Nothing just falls in my lap. Well, something did, but I'm gonna tell you about that another time. But anyhow, back on subject. I looked at all these years how I tried to avoid having an upbringing like mine, just to unconsciously give my kids an upbringing like mine. Quick backstory to that. So I had five brothers. There were two older than me and three younger than me. I was considered, I was right in the middle, but I was considered part of the older group of kids. And then you had the younger group, which was my three younger brothers. So my mother literally raised us in two different groups, even though we're all 2, 3 years apart. She raised us in two different groups. So we were the older kids and they were the younger kids. And the older kids had more responsibilities than the younger kids. Matter of fact, up until the day she died, the younger kids were in their 30s, and I still don't think they had responsibility. They lived with her. She just took care of them all their lives. Me, on the other hand, shit, I had to go when I was, I, well, I left when I was 17, came back, and she forced me out when I was 19. She was like, look, you got you're pregnant with a baby, you already got a baby, get out, basically. So I swore to myself, like, that is not how I'm going to raise my children. I'm going to raise my children differently. They're all going to feel included, because there were times where they tended to do more with the younger kids than they did us. We were left out of a lot. We were left at home, and they'll take the younger kids. But I didn't realize that unconsciously I picked up her habits. Like, when I look at my kids, my older children are much more independent than my younger children. And it's funny because I just never thought about why. I just naturally expected them to be. Like, my oldest son, he's very independent. He doesn't ask me for much. He just graduated college. I'm very proud of him. You got my daughter, she has two children. She'll call me sometimes and she'll ask me for things. But most of the time she's figured it out. The only one who's still kind of up under me is my 19-year-old son, but I'm starting to see that he's starting to branch out himself and, take care of his own business, and he's getting there. He gonna be a little work, y'all. He gonna be a little work, but he getting there. Then I got my two babies, and I realized that, like, I did the same thing my mother did. Like, my older children had more responsibilities than us. I like This is like my mom's household. And like when we were growing up, like everyone lived with us. Everybody went to my mom's house. If you ran away from home, you went to my mom. If you needed a place to go, you went to my mom. Like, so many people lived with us over the years, and I swore up and down I didn't want that. And it's always somebody freaking living with me. And I'm just like, it's just never me and my children. And I was like, you know what? I have picked up my mother's traits unconsciously. So I realized that some things we're just naturally inclined to do. And I think that I'm just naturally a giving I'm a mother. I'm just naturally a giving person. And it's crazy because when I look back on generations and people talk about my grandmother and how she was, and my great grandmother and how she was, we were all like that. And my aunts and how they were. Like my aunt Pat, not so much. She never really had like a whole bunch of people living with her. She did sometimes over the years. I hear her tell me like, yes, somebody came and stayed with me for a little bit. But my Aunt Shirley was the same way. Like, if you need a place to go, you went to stay with Aunt Shirley. It's like we all picked up those characteristics. So it's crazy on how strong our DNA is. Another thing I noticed is that I cook differently. I like certain spices I want the way I cook my food. And some things I learned from my mother, but I didn't learn how to cook from my mother, and here's why. It's because when I was young and I was supposed to have been learning how to cook from her, I was running the streets with my friends and boyfriends and doing shit I wasn't supposed to do. So I didn't really learn how to cook from her. When I got older, after I met my youngest kid's dad, well, she kind of forced me in that kitchen because he's like, "Look, I ain't dating no woman that don't know how to cook, so you need to get in that kitchen and learn." I would like we would talk on the phone. I'd be like, "Hey, what are you putting this?" And she'd be like, "Hey, I put that." Or how do you mix this? And she'd be like, "You mix it that way." And then I just put my own little thug dizzle on it. Well, I'm talking to my Aunt Patty after my mom died, and we're talking on the phone. And it was Thanksgiving, and she was asking me how did I make certain foods, and I was giving her my little recipe. And she said, "You know what, Jasmine?" She said, "That's how all the women in our family make it." She said, great great grandmother made it that way, your grandmother made it that way, your mom, all your aunts." So it's crazy how like even the way we cook is carried down to us. And like even my 21-year-old daughter, it's not many times where she actually sat in the kitchen with me and cooked, but her cooking is so similar to mine. So I was reading this book, and it talks about spiritual herbalism because I'm really into herbs just naturally. It's not something that I like. I didn't want to go take a class or nothing like that. I just like herbs. I just like finding natural ways to make things. But I was reading this book, and in the book, I can't even think of the name of it. I gotta get it. But in the book, the woman was talking about DNA and generations, and she was talking about trauma too. And it's not only the bad side that people, because people always talk about like traumatic cycles when coming down to DNA, but also within your DNA are the great attributes about yourself too. It's both. And if you think about it, many many years ago, when your great grandmother times 10 was born, she already had the egg, because we're born with all the ovaries, all the eggs that we will have. We're born with those. We're born with all of our eggs that we're going to have for like the rest of our life, and our children are in there. So my grandmother, six times, six, seven, 8 generations ago, and all the way to the beginning, she already carried my DNA. She already carried the egg that would carry the egg that would carry the egg that would carry the egg, and so forth till I came within her body. And everything that we experience in our body, all trauma, all of that, that influences every single aspect of our body. How do you think, like, if you go through any type of stress or traumatic event, it causes health issues? Like, it causes heart problems, it can cause high blood pressure, like it can cause high cortisol levels that can cause all other types of issues within your body. So imagine going through something traumatic or living in a country, being taken from your country and taken from your homeland or stripped of your homeland, brought over here, or if you were already here, forced into slavery, beaten, watch your family get split up, or have children and watch them be enslaved and beaten, or have a husband and then your husband and your family sold off and being raped by your owners and raped probably by other people. And then imagine that. And then that trauma just gets passed down for generation to generation to generation to generation to generation, or like how I come from a long line of women that are the great cooks. It's just stuff like that. And the stuff that a lot of that stress is absorbed into, our DNA, because we're 75% water. Water, you can mix almost anything with water, any type of solution with water, and it blends in with water. So why for the sake of me would I not think that anything that happened to my ancestors 6, 7, 8, and 10 years ago don't affect me today? It does. It really, really does. Um, And I also think about like how like things that happen to masses of people, how it can affect us. Like look at kids post 9/11. Um on September 11th, 2001, I was pregnant with my daughter. So I gave birth to her when when the twin towers went out. I mean the trade center went down. I was pregnant with her. And I was scared at that time. I remember I was in school. I was in chemistry class. They told us they walked into the classroom like school over, go home, lock all your doors, be safe, stay inside, don't go nowhere with it. That shit is scary. Imagine being pregnant during that time. So any type of fear I had, I put that into my child. And my daughter, she's a very emotional child. Look at these post pandemic babies. These post pandemic babies, if you pay attention to them, they different. So not only is there like generational trauma, but there's like I don't know a word for it. And I'm sure there's a word for it, but it's like when something is affected by a group of people and how that trauma is carried on by them from years on. So imagine how survivors of any type of genocide or Holocaust feel. And we know that the Holocaust that wasn't the only genocide that we've had in our history. It's happened all over the world as well, but those things carry them on from generation to generation to generation. And then you get a group of people that are a certain way, and people don't understand why they are that way. And a lot of it's carried down from generation to generation. Like why black people got high blood pressure all the time? Besides us being fed, the poor diet on the plantation. So how does like we develop these poor diets over the years that can cause issues with hypertension? But I know a lot of healthy black people who still have hypertension. And another thing that can bring on hypertension is stress. So like all is our chemical makeup did our is our chemical makeup naturally formed to react to stress that way, or stressors. It's just things that you think about all the time, or like how propaganda can like reprogram. It's just I think so much about, how what we observe and what we go through can program our DNA. So now that I'm working on healing on another level, I'm still healing my own personal traumas that happened to me specifically, and things that I've done to my children and allowed to happen to them because I was unconsciously moving in a pattern that I wasn't aware of. I'm working on healing those generational traumas too, so my kids can break them. One thing I love about my two youngest daughters is that because they were given somewhat of a different me, the decisions that they are making are different. So I'm seeing them move a little bit differently than I did when I was their age. And I'm hoping to continue to work. I'm seeing my older daughter, my 22, my 22-year-old daughter make different decisions. Like she is feeding her children healthier diets, she's more present in the home, she's more attentive towards her children. I tell her all the time she's a better mother than I could ever be. But I'm also seeing some of my patterns within her temperament, her emotion, her sometimes she can be inattentive, sometimes she can wander off. I was the queen of wandering off. I drop them kids off, be gone in a minute. Sometimes I see that in her, but she's definitely much better of a woman than I could ever be. But I'm noticing that with this generation of my children, they're starting to break that cycle that has been served through generations for years. Even my oldest son would making different choices, and he's 24 and he doesn't have any children yet, and he wants to wait to have children. He is strategically planning when he has children. When I come from a whole bunch of unplanned pregnancies. That our family, we all ain't one pregnancy been planned. but he's making better choices. When I was my 22-year-old daughter's age, my mother had them. I dropped them off. I was gone. I was running around. I'll pick them up. I'll have them, but then she had them most of the time. And then my ass had the nerve to be offended when she died, and they felt like they lost a mother. And I'm like, I'm your mother. No, she was their mother. I'm just. I had to swallow that pill. I had to check myself about that, but she was. I wasn't. I made a lot of mistakes, and I take full accountability for those mistakes, and I am working on mending those relationships with my children. I was not a perfect parent. Hell, I'm still not. I ain't no perfect parent. Made a lot of mistakes, but they are breaking those cycles. They're making better choices. They're choosing better partners. My daughter's boyfriend, he's very good to her. He takes care of her. He's a great dad. He watches over her children. They're making better choices. And I'm proud of them for that because I'm watching, traumatic cycles being broken right in front of my face. I get to live to see that instead of, my effects working 3 generations down the line. They're starting to work now, and they're giving birth to these beautiful children. And these children, my grandson is intelligent, and we're allowing him as a young male to be emotionally vulnerable. I was talking to my older son. My older son don't get it though. He was like, "Man, he always crying." I mean, well, that's how he communicate. Let him cry. So I'll sit down with him, and he do cry a lot. Oh, he's a Scorpio, and the boy is always in tears. And I just sit him down. I'm like, "Baby, why you crying?" No, he'll sit there and cry for a minute. But well, look, let grandma know when you're ready to use words, and he'll hug up on me. He be like, "Grandma, this is what I'm feeling," and he'll tell me. So I'm hoping to teach him like, hey, it's okay to express yourself. If that's how you feel like expressing yourself, it's okay. It don't make you soft. It don't make you nothing. But I also teach him too, like, you can use words because to be 4 years old, he's very smart. Like, how do you articulate your emotions? So let's learn how to talk about how you feel, something I wasn't taught and something that I struggled with over the years. I want to encourage them to do that. Like, sit down and tell me how you're feeling right now. Let's talk about it. I think he was crying yesterday because my oldest son, uncle come and uncle throw you up in the air. Oh, he hates that. It don't scare him, but he don't like it. And he was just crying, crying, crying. I said, I said, what's wrong, baby? And he was like, Grandma boy. And he starts crying again. I said, can you please use words to explain to me what you don't like? And he calmed down and he said, I don't like when they throw me up in the air like that. I was like, why don't you like it? He said, I don't know. This little boy said, he said, it doesn't matter why I don't like it. I just don't like it. And I don't want them to do that. When I say my little proud tears were about to come down, I said, "Yeah," and they need to respect it. He don't like that. You know what I mean? But the way he said, it doesn't matter. I don't have to give you a reason why. I just don't like it. And that lit my little grandma heart. I said, he don't like it. He don't have to like it. There's certain things I don't like. Like, I don't like when people call my name and tap me on the shoulder. They'll be like, Ma, and they tap me on the don't touch me. And there is no rhyme or reason to why I don't like that. I just don't touch me. Just don't do it. Just call my name. If I don't answer you right away, give me a second. I'm a medium. I might be gone somewhere else, but I'll be back in a few seconds. Just give me a second to answer you, but don't tap me in the fuck, especially while I'm driving. I get aggravated. He don't want to be thrown up in the air. I don't blame him. I love it. I love it. So my question for you is what general what generational patterns do you carry like that you're not aware of? Pay attention to how your parents came up and how your parents came up. If you have a parent that you don't know, you know what I'm saying? And like my 19-year-old, he reminds me a lot of his father, and he does not know his father very well at all. Like, and he's to the point where they don't even speak. They'll speak if they see each other, but they don't call each other. They don't really speak. He was never really present in my son's life. I was in a relationship for, 15 years of their life, which was most of their life because they still young. And that was his that was his father figure. But he acts like his dad. That's pure DNA. The same mannerisms, walk like him, talk like him, the same temperament, everything. That's probably why he's my most triggering child, because that's my most triggering relationship. But his mannerisms, everything are very similar to his father, and he doesn't like to have that talk. Like, he's not ready to hear. He gets highly offended when I be like, you act like your father sometimes. And I don't mean it in a bad way, because his father wasn't all bad. His father had some great qualities. And some of those qualities my son has, that sweetness, that family and family oriented, being very loving. He could be all of that. His dad was like that too. But any comparison to his dad, he don't want to hear. He's not ready for that conversation. Like, he's not ready for the DNA conversation and how we carry a lot of similar traits. He's not ready for that. He gets highly offended. So, out of respect for him, I avoid it. But what patterns do you unconsciously carry with you? That your parents had or your parents' had. Like, and when I say unconscious, that means, like, if you really sit down and think about it, it's not unconscious anymore, because then you become aware of it. Like, have you become aware of any patterns to the way you parent the children or the way you operate in relationships? Is there a pattern there that you have that you just never realized that you had? Like, I would like to start peeling back. I want you to start peeling back those layers. Like, what's up under there? Why do I move this way? Why do I handle business this way? Why do I live this way? Like, why do I answer to issues or conflict in relationships and friendships this way? Why do I answer to issues and conflict in life this way when it comes to making decisions? Or why do I celebrate this but not that about myself? Like, what characteristics or traits, bad and good, I have that are just unconsciously picked up from family traits. With that being said, I hope you all have an excellent day. I'm getting ready to head out to work and enjoy my day, and I surely hope that you enjoy yours. Peace.